We begin with what has become a fast-moving nightmare for the Republican Party, President Trump, and their signature economic agenda. Remember, Elon Musk is many things, but in politics, he is Donald Trump's biggest donor, a recent employee, an ally, if you want to put it that way. And he is now an ally turned foe on the signature issue in what is billed as the key biggest piece of legislation that Trump and the Republicans want to pass this year. And the attacks have come fast and vicious. It is quite a twist that upends what had already been a very unusual, seemingly transactional alliance between the reality show president, who has often been flexible about who he works with and takes on people who've been critical of him as long as they say the right stuff now, and the world's richest man. So here's what's happening. Elon Musk is going after the president's policy priority right after they held their supposedly warm goodbye party, exit interview, whatever it's called in this Trump White House. It wasn't cake, but we've all been to events where employees are leaving and you say bye. This was a little different. Musk is clearly on a tear. And as we try to do around here, we're going to show you what's happening in the evidence. This one is really something, and you can decide or analyze why he's doing this. Is this because he really opposes what he calls a terrible bill? Is it a mix of that and his clear anger at how he was treated in Washington, which he said publicly? Is it a way to get back at Donald Trump? A bromance turned a bro-off that we all have to live through on the consequences? And before we say this is too petty, too reality show, too much billionaires tweeting into the night, it may also be, according to some Trump critics, an important positive, because the opposition sees Elon Musk, for whatever reasons, as joining them against the budget. Now, here's the quote. "I'm sorry. I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is," Musk says, "a disgusting abomination." And then he goes further. This is him saying directly to Trump and the Republicans supporting him that he's out. "Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." Elon Musk, ever imperious, chewing everybody out. Maybe he's angry as well that they're not listening to him despite all the money he's donated. Democrats put up a poster of this exact critique as the speaker was talking to the press. Democratic and Republican leadership know that Elon Musk, however unpopular he proved to be, however toxic Tesla has become during the MAGA era, Elon Musk is a big deal. You don't really, in this current environment, ignore him completely. And so Musk's attack, his, quote, MAGA disloyalty, is upending everything today.
Something I didn't think was imaginable. I agree with Elon Musk. Even Elon Musk, who's been part of the whole process and as Trump's buddy says the bill is bad, you can imagine how bad this bill is.
My hope is that as he has an opportunity to further assess what this bill actually does, that he'll come to a different conclusion.
With all due respect, my friend Elon is terribly wrong about the one big beautiful bill. We had a long conversation yesterday. For him to come out and pan the whole bill is to me just very disappointing, very surprising.
You are looking at the most powerful people in Congress, the Senate leader, the Speaker of the House on the Republican side, and Democrats, all for different reasons, feeling they have to respond. And so the sheer legislative politics of this are actually pretty interesting. Whatever one thinks about Elon Musk, how he started, how he ended, how protests and civil disobedience and people going to Tesla stores and outlets, all of that built up to pushing Musk out, a kind of a victory for the resistance, if you will. But that doesn't mean that he's irrelevant. In fact, now he is in that pretty familiar Washington tradition of someone who tried to play on the inside, but is powerful enough, in his case, rich enough, to still do a lot of what they want on the outside. And in that sense, Donald Trump and the Republicans may have misplayed their hand. They are worried about Musk. They know his following. Remember, they still operate day in and day out on a social media platform that he controls. They can't just quit X. At least we're not seeing that happen because it has become a kind of a boosted Truth Social. So this is one of those stories that is really the way we live now in politics. And as for those Republicans trying to do the good cop thing and say, well, Elon Musk, who they've dealt with the last several months, there's been all kinds of reporting about how frustrating and fact-free they have found him. But some of them trying to do the good cop thing and saying, Elon, just read the bill, get more familiar with it. Maybe you'll like it. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. Musk now threatening some of those same Republicans who are supporting the Trump bill. In November next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. Again, like Trump, he may get a lot out of his bluster and words, but he does have the money to fund those efforts if he chooses. The man who funded so many efforts against Trump's foes may be turning to fund efforts against Trump's allies in the Republican Party, if he's to be believed. Wall Street Journal reported Trump himself wondered how much of this might have fooled him. If the so-called Doge cuts didn't save money, was it all, quote, BS? Now, Trump hasn't publicly gone on the attack on this one much, and that may be a shrewd choice. But the reporting suggests that he looks at Musk as kind of a sometime brilliant man-child, half genius, half boy. Now, the seeds of this fight began with the administration. The New Yorker had that funny cover that went everywhere, imagining Musk with his hand up, basically being sworn in alongside the co-president that he was pushing out of the frame. It's a comic, it's an exaggeration, but it spoke to the tension between these two digitized billionaire egos. Remember, while presidents rarely do joint interviews, and almost never in the first 100 days, someone convinced Donald Trump to do this joint interview, which made Elon Musk look very powerful. They sat there, they tried to play nice with each other, and they also committed on air to things that proved to be lies. Like they said they would avoid conflicts of interest. We have the video, and then they later hawked Teslas on the White House lawn. Trump also clearly moved to demote and limit Musk's power. There was New York Times and other reporting, and some of this goes to the difference between the optics and the reality, because Musk, as you see here, dominated cabinet meetings unlike any other non-president and brought his own decor, his own fashion, his own attitude, but he didn't last. The New York Times reported there was a potential turning point that yielded the significant indication that Trump was willing to put limits on Musk after clashes with other cabinet officials. So the new rift is a whole different level. And while we can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, and if there's some way that Musk walks this back, if he gets other things he wants, we are witnessing what many in the Republican Party, we'll get to others, but what many in the Republican Party see as Donald Trump's great ability to blow a lead, to incompetently bring in all of these extra problems to burn up the key governing period when most presidents have higher political capital close to the election they won. Because there were months of Musk doing all of his co-presidenting and cuts, many of which, as you probably know, didn't work out. Now they're in the breakup period that's still supposed to be the honeymoon. The relationship's been strained for a minute. As Taylor says, it's been a long time coming. She knows about breakups. She also might know a little bit more about winning than either of these supposed billionaires. She just won the long-term battle to get back her songs and equity. But that's for lower in the show or later in the hour. Meanwhile, here's how we got here, and many predicted it.
What is this bromance between Donald Trump and Elon Musk? You say you think it's going to crumble and fail miserably.
Elon Musk and others, right now, they're in the halcyon moment with Donald Trump, but they will come to the Hades moment with him. It's just a matter of time.
I said from the very start that this bromance was going to come to an end.
And it has. We're joined by Bill Kristol, a Republican White House veteran and editor-at-large for The Bulwark, founding director of Defending Democracy Together, a longtime conservative who warned early about Donald Trump and has been consistent. Some of the people who warned along with you, like Marco Rubio, are now carrying it all out. Why was this foreseen?
I guess people knew Trump, but especially knew Musk. I mean, I'm struck that people who knew Musk sort of thought this would happen. But, you know, I don't. God knows I don't put myself in Elon Musk's mind. That's a bridge too far, even even for people like us who are supposed to comment on this. But I don't know. Don't you think his reaction suggests Trump fired him? This talk about, you mentioned a breakup, true enough. He was going to go back to his business. He'd only 120 days and all that nonsense. He wanted to stay. He loved it there. And I think Trump just said at some point, no, sorry, goodbye. Because I just think the ferocity in a way.
Ferocity. He hasn't been fired in a long time.
Right, and he's gotten away with so much. Now, who knows why Trump? Now, Trump couldn't he have kept him along, just gradually reducing his role and trying to sort of smooth it off. A, maybe Trump just got sick of him. B, maybe Trump knows something that's going to come out, or stuff that was that's lurking in Doge world that we're about to learn more about, because the courts are looking at some of this. There are court cases that have discovery, in fact, about Doge, and maybe Trump has a sense that, he wants Musk to be far away, and maybe even doesn't mind if he's a little bit distancing himself from Trump going forward. But who knows? Who knows with these guys?